Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of The Lounge. I've taken Rebel's show over for this one. He's been the guest, and as you can see here, we are getting into the first part of the Ronaldo interview that has been done by Piers Morgan. It has just been on. I have sat through a lot of it and watched it. Well, I've sat through it for the last hour and watched it. But before we go into it, I'll just quickly come over to you, Rebel. How are you doing, mate? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, not too bad. As you, I was working all day, and then I was kind of thinking, what is this lad going to say tonight? Was what was kind of the wheels that were going through my head, and unfortunately, I've been kind of watching a text commentary of it more than watching the actual interview because little kind of small details like we don't broadcast in your country became an issue. So I've been relying on the Twitter feed to get me up to date. But it seems like there's quite a bit to get into, and tomorrow is going to have quite a bit more by the sounds of it.
Yep, 100%. There is quite a bit to get through, so we will get through it as quickly as possible. Before we do that, let's quickly do and pay our dues. Firstly, we would like to say we're proudly sponsored by Global Mapping Surveys. Global Mapping Surveys currently assist architects, property developers, and construction companies all over the country. They offer a wide range of services such as setting out, topographical surveys, 3D laser scanning, and monitoring. The link is in the description for the website and contact details. Thank you so much to them. Also, we are partnered by Wraith Esports Energy. Now, you've heard me say this plenty of times. Wraith is a powdered formula which is mixed with water. It's a water-based energy drink. It's a healthier alternative to generic cans, and it is clean, zero sugar, and antioxidant rich, and it's designed to give you the boost that you need. Use code FTSN22 for a 10% discount, and I believe they're doing a 15% discount after your first order for your next order. So if you're interested in that, check out them there and just scan that QR code. It'll take you straight to it. And the last thing before we get into it, Rebel, is this thing, and that is you win your team's shirt. It's as simply as getting involved in live chat or after the show. We will be drawing this. I have decided it will be getting drawn on one of the first Football Lounge show after Christmas. That is when the winner will be drawn. So get involved there. Right, now that's all out of the way. Let's get into what we're here for, Rebel. And that is the interview. Obviously, we know part 2 is coming out tomorrow. One of the first things Ronaldo says in this is, it's time to say something. I personally do agree. It is time to say something. We saw that he was going to say something a few months ago now, and it's just come out to light now. Why do you think it's taken so long?
That's the interesting thing. There is some speculation that this thing has been in the can for a number of weeks and that they've been pruning and editing in order to get the thing right and probably have the least amount of legal exposure for Ronaldo. But if that is the case, my question at this point would be, why would he drop this pipe bomb before he goes to World Cup and have this storm hanging over him? So, like, while it is time to say something, you would have to question maybe some of the timing of this whole thing. Maybe it was just a case of he's decided, I'm leaving for international duty and I'm going to make sure that I've closed the door sufficiently that I will not rock back up on the back kitchen come the December 26, 27 fixture. But is it time to say something? I suppose, to my head, there's kind of a code of conduct that you have to be guided by when you're a player. You have to be professional and you have to act in the interests of the team. And I suppose, regardless, in my head, just kind of before I kind of get into the details of the conversation, I feel like he's overstepped in a way, even if he was speaking 100% bare facts and everything he said had the interest of the club at heart. There's a way and a means to go about it. And even though he mightn't get on completely with the manager, in essence, it feels like he's hung him out to dry by doing the interview.
Okay, so we'll go into a few things he said, and I will be paraphrasing slightly because I was watching it and writing at the same time. So as you most people could probably understand that's very, very difficult to take in all the information while you're writing past information down at the same time. But he did speak about his potential move to City before he came back to United. And he did say that it was very, very close to happening. A couple of clubs were very interested. United wasn't one of them. But he did turn around and say it was a conscious decision to go back to United. And it's a decision he still doesn't regret. Now, obviously, that's fantastic news. You know, we didn't want to see him go to the likes of City or anything like that. And it's even better knowing that he still doesn't regret the decision.
Yeah, well, I suppose there is a man that is responsible for United's dream decade and a half or whatever it was, and that was Sir Alex Ferguson. And the idea that his star boy from one of his teams was going to end up at our rivals, it just did not sit well with him. And I think Ronaldo still kind of views him as a kind of a father figure, and disappointing Ferguson was not something that he wanted to do. So the only thing is Manchester United had to cough up the relevant monetary compensation package, and that was the 500k a week contract that Jorge Mendes negotiated for Ronaldo. And
Yep.
quite honestly, given his age, it seemed absolutely crazy at the time.
It did seem crazy at the time. It really did. I mean, we'll go into like the other things he said as well, because you mentioned Sir Alex Ferguson. Obviously, Sir Alex did ring him up and say, "Listen, you can't go to City," and his reply was, "Okay, boss." And that's why he came back to United. But he did say, to be honest, and this is quotes from Ronaldo. To be honest, I thought everything would change. I thought it would be different. I saw that everything was exactly the same as to when I left. It surprised me. I didn't expect it. Slowly and surely, there was change. I thought when they signed Sancho, Varane, and me, United would be at the top of the pyramid again, and it didn't happen. I knew there was a gap, but I didn't realise how big the gap was. So obviously, Ronaldo kind of knew things have changed a little bit, but didn't expect it to have basically, as he said, be stagnant. Because I mean, he said, you know, in his opinion, this is compared to the Real Madrid and Juve's that he's played for as well. In my opinion, the progress was zero in terms of training, dieting, the camp, everything. It's miles and miles behind those kind of clubs. I mean, this is really good. This is really good for Ronaldo to bring all these things to light. Obviously, a lot of United fans know there's issues at United. In your opinion, is he right to bring all these things up into the limelight? And do you agree?
Well, I obviously think that matters that are not up to standard need to be addressed. Whether they need to be addressed in the public forum is another debate. But what kind of stood out to me there is he said that he was caught by surprise that nothing had evolved or changed since he had departed Manchester United. It's no secret that the decade since Sir Alex Ferguson retired from football management have been less than palatable for us as United fans, and that the team was lacking in direction. So, in a way, some of this isn't reconciling for me. The other side of it as well, when you're talking about your training facilities, your training methods, he has two international colleagues, Diego Dallo, Bruno Fernandes, that were in situ that could probably give him a book on what was going on in the club. So again, I'm not sure if I buy the fact that not this stuff not kind of being modernized could have been a surprise given the opportunity to get that information. And then aside from that, then he was looking at a position where a former player that he played alongside Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was in charge. And at the time of his signature, there was a lot of people questioning the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tactics book. While we were very successful in the season before with the way that he kind of developed his counter-attacking football, there was some people questioning where the plan B was. And again, if you were looking at the video footage and kind of taking into account the advice that he would have been given before signing for a club, I don't see any scenario where he could be taken unawares. This is a very intelligent individual. Cristiano Ronaldo is not an idiot. So he knows exactly what's going on. He has a good grasp of where teams are at. And he had to have known that Manchester United wasn't quite where they needed to be to take on a Champions League or Premier League when he arrived.
Yeah. I mean, he does also go on to say that he hopes that in the next 2 to 3 years, United will be back at the top of the pyramid and everything like that. But I mean, he does continue, obviously, discussing the failures and everything when he had. He does go on to say he didn't understand what was going on and why they brought in Ralph Rangnick. He wasn't a coach, and it was a ridiculous decision. If you're not a coach, how can you manage Manchester United? Now, see, I've defended Ralph Rangnick in the past, and I'm still going to defend him now. He's doing quite well at international level. But I've always said he isn't a coach. I will stand by Ronaldo on that. He isn't a coach. He is a builder of clubs. That is what he does, and he was brought in to steady the ship. Surely Ronaldo would have been told, he's here to help us steady the ship and then work in the background.
See, again, this is another part that slightly isn't reconciling with me. But they knew exactly what his brief was when he arrived in. At the time, we weren't in a position to appoint the full-time manager that we wanted. I think it was down to two people at the time. It was either Pochettino or Eric Ten Hag. Pochettino would have cost a bare fortune to take away from PSG, and Ten Hag wanted to finish out his campaign with Ajax. So they knew that this was a covering role. The second thing was we knew exactly what we were getting with Ralph Rangnick in that he was a builder of clubs from the executive level more than the on-field coaching. And what he was trying to do, he was trying to prepare Manchester United Football Club for a more high-tempo, energetic style of football. And if you remember, when he tried to do that, the players just weren't in the position of fitness that they needed to be in order to kind of push on from that. And it ultimately ended with Ralph Rangnick highlighting home truths, a bit like what's happening here. And some of them actually, I think, are quite similar in terms of what they were talking about in terms of the organizational structures. And again, you're kind of looking at it kind of going, this guy's an intelligent footballer. He knew what Ralph Rangnick was being brought in for, and he knew the ultimate role that he was actually being dressed for. But unfortunately, because of the way Rangnick took on the laundry, the Glaziers were kind of going, oh, he's getting too close to the bone here. Out you go.
Well, yeah, that is exactly what happened. But again, Ronaldo goes on. This is still on the Ralph Rangnick topic here. He turned around and said it's the lack of ambition. He spoke to people before, and nobody had heard of Ralph Rangnick. He respected him. Of course, he respected him because he was the manager. But deep down inside, he knew that he was never the boss. Now, that is quite damning because obviously that's going to affect not just Ronaldo, a lot of players. And we saw this happen. We witnessed it. A lot of players didn't seem bothered because they knew Ralph Rangnick wasn't the boss. I mean, that's highlighting stuff that's happening in the dressing room as such. What are your thoughts on those comments there?
Well, if you think back again to the Ole appointment, he was coming in at the time in a temporary contract position. And we had a team that decided to play out of their skins because obviously they were kind of looking at it, okay, he's United alumni and we need to do what we can. And ultimately that Paris Saint-Germain turnaround in that Champions League match proved to be a pivotal moment in defining where we went with our next manager. But with Ralph Rangnick, again, these guys should be professional footballers. They should realise, okay, this guy is in here to do a job. He wants to give us a platform that we can give our new permanent manager either a Champions League football or good, solid Europa base. But the players didn't do that. And I don't think it was because of Rangnick. I think there was two personalities, Harry Maguire, Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo may or may not have decided that Maguire wasn't of the caliber to be the leader of the pack. And then obviously, as you know, cliques form around, and that's where it can be very easily get very damaging to try and hold the dressing room together. And also, Rangnick was not helped by the fact that two now departed players were probably leaking to the press constantly.
Yep, there were. I mean, he did speak briefly about Ollie as well. You know, he said that he loved Ollie. Obviously, he's got history with Ollie as well. He feels like he did a good job and he needed more time. Obviously, that didn't happen. But then he started. Piers asked him a question about how he looked up to players and everything, the older people in the dressing room and whatnot, and whether it's the same at Manchester United. Now, we've seen recently some very, very good young talent at United coming through. The likes of Garnacho, Zidane, unfortunately Gardner, who's left now to go play his football elsewhere. But these nice young talent coming through. Ronaldo had some slight damning opinions on the youth. It's just not related to United. This was related to everywhere that he's been. So he's turned around and said about the youth players, they all live differently. They don't have the hunger, and because it's a lot easier for them now. They didn't suffer, and they don't care. Like I said, not just at United, but at all clubs. If they don't really listen, that's why they have two ears. It goes in one and comes out the other. They go back to doing whatever they want to do. And for him, a lot of them, not many, but a lot of them won't have longevity and success in the world of football. See, that's quite damning when you think about it. I mean, if we just look at it at the Manchester United perspective here, me and you are both Manchester United fans. So if we just look at it that perspective, what kind of damage would that do to these youth players?
It's an interesting comment, and I think when you think back to when Ronaldo was a greenhorn coming on to United's books, he was looking at all these alumni, the likes of Beck's, Giggs, etc., that had played for club, and he was probably given some tasks to do for them, like cleaning their boots and other small kind of humbling things. And at the same time, then they were imparting knowledge on how to block out the noise, for want of a better word, aka the media, fan boos or fan comments or whatever. And it was a good working relationship. As you know, Ronaldo, when he started, he was overly flary in terms of the trickery that he was doing at points when trickery wasn't called for. We love seeing the flair out of Anthony now. And again, we'd hope that he would refine to do it in appropriate places down the line. But that's what a comparative that I've just drawn. But I think the main thing that's different between when Ronaldo came on board and when, we say, Garnacho, who's our current young star boy, is on board, is that the wage demands that these lads are expecting are poles apart from what Cristiano Ronaldo and his generation of young players were getting when they came on board first. These guys are multi-millionaires before they possibly even kick a ball in anger for the first team on a regular basis. So I suppose maybe it's a question of getting the desire and the hunger and making these players earn their crust before they get these big wages. Maybe we are, as a fan base, fueling those big wages by giving Premier League clubs so much money, because with that money, then the way that it's rationalized is these players want a bigger slice of the pie. They're not prepared to come in for your 1K, 2K a week like they used to and earn their apprenticeship.
Yeah, I mean, Pierce kind of played to Ronaldo's ego a little bit there, as well in this little segment that they were talking, and obviously saying, if I was a player and I had Cristiano Ronaldo telling me like things to do or speaking in my ear, I'd be sat there listening. But Ronaldo just basically brushed it off and turned around and said, I'm not much of one to go up to people and talk to them and give them tips or anything. I prefer to be an example. I prefer to be the last person on the pitch and the first one to arrive, which is fair enough. He's 38 years old. He's always the first there, always the last to leave. But the thing there is, he prefers to be an example to the younger players in his actions. Now, I don't blame Ronaldo for doing this interview at all. He's highlighting and bringing up a lot of dirt that us fans don't really see. I think a lot of it's going to be brought out to light tomorrow. But surely, in a way, him turning around saying he wants to be, a role model and show people how to behave. This isn't the best way to go about it.
That's exactly what I was going to actually come to, and you took the words out of my mouth, Colm. Nobody's doubting his contributions to the training pitch. I think it's been a part of his lifestyle in terms of football all the time. He works hard and he trains hard in that regard, and that's what he wants to show anybody that's looking up to him, that this is what's required. But at the same time, like, the message that's being sent to, maybe say, let's just use Garnacho again, here's an example, is if something doesn't go the way Garnacho wants it down the line, is he going to say, do you know what now? I'm going to get on to Ronnie there, get Piers Morgan's number, and I'm going to do a 90 minutes.
We don't know. This is things we don't know. And I know, after he spoke about that, Piers started asking him about, obviously, the family and obviously everything he went through with, obviously, the loss of his child and everything. But I'm not going to cover that. That's his personal thing. I'm not going to cover anything about that. So we're going to go on to the things.
Can I just have one quick comment, actually? The only thing I will say about that is he made an allegation about certain executive members and whether or not they took him at face value. I think that needs to be looked at internally, and that's all I wanted to say about that particular issue. That's the one area that I do think he is right to be aggrieved if it happened.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The reason why I'm not talking about his family situation is because that was never brought up today. That's getting brought up tomorrow. It was more about his family and their struggles and all that kind of stuff, which is it's their thing to deal with. I don't want to encroach on anything like that. Even though I've not lost a child, I've lost somebody close to me who was younger than me, so I kind of understand a little bit how he's feeling. But then obviously we've seen it quite a bit. The Neville and Rooney have been getting on the back of Ronaldo as well. He turned around and said he really doesn't understand about Rooney. Not so long ago, Rooney was round at his house with his child and invited young Cristiano to go around to his house and play football. He was saying maybe it's jealousy on Rooney's behalf because Ronaldo's still playing and Rooney finished his career in his early 30s. Maybe he's looking for, just press, to get in the papers or whatever, or maybe he's looking to try and get a better job than what he's currently got. He said basically both of them are using his name for fame because he's one of the most famous people on earth.
Look, there's no doubting that when you talk about the top of this generation of footballs, there's two names, Ronaldo and Messi. Nobody is ever going to argue that. And I don't think it was necessary really to probably go in to say that Rooney was jealous of him. Rooney had a good, solid career. He adapted his game to play kind of a hybrid midfield forward role for us in his latter years before eventually the wheels kind of came off playing at that level, and he kind of finished out his career between the MLS and the Everton. Rooney, I think, is quite satisfied with his lot. And I think Rooney himself is not going to say, I'm in the same physical shape as Cristiano Ronaldo. I think the only man that even rivals him for his physique at his age is Zlatan. And that's saying something because Zlatan takes his standards to the highest of levels. But Rooney, I think, what he said, if you look back at the actual comments, there was nothing really derogatory in what Rooney said. He literally said, yeah, he's getting older. His body's changing. He's still in great physical shape, but he's still 37. time doesn't hold on for anybody, be it Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi.
Yep, 100%, 100%. I mean, he did say as well, like I said, he doesn't understand why they're going at him. But the quote that I did like is, if you don't know the whole story, don't come at me, basically, is what he was saying. Because obviously there'll be stuff that Rooney and Neville won't know that's going off, whether it be in his personal life or behind the scenes at Manchester United. I know they are quite clued into what happens at United. There's part of that little infrastructure and click, but maybe there's something there that they don't know. They're not getting the full story. I mean, we're still waiting for the full story. We don't get it all until tomorrow. It was
interesting.
Asked,
interesting, actually. I did see a comment from Rio Ferdinand, who used to have great access to Old Trafford. He's not allowed in there now because of their desire to kind of keep in-house problems in-house. And I suppose while I do take the point of Ronaldo that if you do not know the whole story, zip it. At the same time, when I think about the proximity of that January window, the proximity of the World Cup, and the chance for him to resolve a move and then speak about it, I still kind of go back to the timing just doesn't seem, especially with Ronaldo at World Cup with Portugal, it just doesn't seem like it was in Ronaldo's decision to do it now, because I don't think he would have. I wonder, was there an element of pressure from Pierce to get this out there, because there was a lot of time for United fans to start talking about the fallout from this interview.
Yeah. I don't know. We're in the dark as each other. I think a lot of people are just asking the same questions, like why now and what everything like that. I mean, Pierce did ask him about Erik ten Hag as well, but not a lot got revealed today. It was literally, did you know about Erik ten Hag? And Ronaldo's answer was, yeah, but only a little bit due to his being in the Eredivisie. So we'll have to wait tomorrow to hear more about his relationship with Ten Hag. But then he went on a little bit more to basically say, and these are quotes from Ronaldo, it's easier to blame me and to cover other things up. So basically, United are papering over the cracks, they're blaming Ronaldo's performances and all this kind of stuff. People don't like to see success. For the last 4 to 5 months, the press has been going at me more and more, and I don't understand. I think personally they are jealous. It's hard, but it's not a problem. I don't really tend to listen or read anything in the paper because most of it is garbage, but they're constantly attacking me and my family, and it's obviously slowly getting to him. Obviously, as a star as Ronaldo, you're going to be scrutinised for everything you do. You're going to be in the limelight for everything. But the fact that they're attacking his family as well, I think is absolutely disgusting.
I would agree 100%. Family is out of bounds. And even Ronaldo personally, to an extent, is out of bounds in my opinion. What we're entitled to as fans to criticise about Ronaldo is his on-field attitude and performances. And that is it. We're entitled to no more. Anything that happens beyond the realms of the pitch isn't really our business, other than his attitude maybe as an ambassador of the club. But it's a very small window, in my opinion. Regards to his comment about papering over the cracks, again, I'm going back to when Alex Ferguson hung up the cape. We've been talking about cracks being papered over for the last decade and a bit at this stage. So there's always going to be a villain. At the time, there was Woodward was one of them. Jose was being called up, but when you think about it in retrospect, you have to question whether or not Jose was given the players that Jose wanted. There's many different aspects like the spending and how it was done, etc., that you could start throwing the finger of blame at. And a lot of what Ronaldo has said, even though it needed saying, isn't new ground, I feel. At least not what we've heard so far, because I don't think it's a surprise to any fan that Carrington isn't up to scratch. I don't think it's a surprise to any fan, considering the leaks last season, that training methods weren't up to standard. We got rid of every single coach in the place. And obviously, Old Trafford itself as a structure is constantly in the news for it's either rat problems or it falling or it leaking or not having modern technology for broadcast. Like these are problems that have been drifting down the road for quite some time. So I'm kind of still waiting for him to hit some new ground.
Yeah. It doesn't look like we're going to get anything really new ground until tomorrow, when that part of the interview comes out. But he did say, obviously, he wants to thank United fans for always, being on his side. United fans are everything to him, and he also said thank you. It like looked properly into the camera and thanked everybody, English football UK wise, for all the support and everything they gave him. The memorable moment when it got to the 7th minute and the cops started singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" and all that kind of stuff, which was very, very heartfelt. And it kind of got a lump in back of my throat a little bit, even though I witnessed it when it actually happened. But I mean, that's basically the part one of the interview. I think all the stuff's going to come out tomorrow. A little bit more is going to come out tomorrow. I just want to get your thoughts, obviously, before we wrap everything up, on what you think Ronaldo is going to unleash tomorrow.
I think we're going to start hearing about broken promises. We've seen this road before with Dean Henderson, where he was promised a fair crack at the whip at the number one keeper's jersey, and when push came to shove, unfortunately for him, De Gea played out of his boots, and there was no avenue back when Dean recovered from COVID. Did either Ten Hag or somebody in the hierarchy, aka Richard Arnold or whoever, maybe it was Woodward before he departed, say that you were entitled to X number of minutes? We have this rumor that Harry Maguire has a minute's contract if he's fit. Who knows if that is the case or not? So I think we might get a bit of an insight into promises made and not kept. Possibly maybe an insight into where he views himself at the moment, because there's some out there that would say that Cristiano Ronaldo coming off the bench and hitting teams when they're tired for 20 minutes might be more valuable at this point than throwing him out the start when teams are fresh and when he doesn't necessarily have the same blistering pace he once had to get behind the lines. There's too for and against that depending on the system of play. What I do think is interesting is today we're already starting to see the first reaction from Manchester United. And I did want to kind of put this one back towards you. There was a rather stirring graphic of the mural that hangs from Old Trafford being ripped down because it does include the one Cristiano Ronaldo. Does that play into the fact that they're not expecting him to come back?
That there is the Glazers washing their hands of Ronaldo. That is their way to retaliate, obviously, to what Ronaldo's done. That's a clear message. You'll never be playing in a United shirt again. That's basically what they've said there. Obviously, we're still waiting for all of the interview to come out, so we're gonna have to see what happens tomorrow. So far from me, I don't think Ronaldo's done all too much wrong at this moment in time. Some of the comments he's made, shouldn't have been said, but the interview today hasn't been too bad at all. If I'm going to be honest with you, I was expecting something a lot worse than what it actually has been. Basically, if I'm going to put it into a sports kind of way, What tonight's show is the PG era of WWE, and what I'm expecting tomorrow is the Attitude era of WWF.
I got you. And I suppose, thinking back to the quotes that were the main quotes that were utilized out of tonight's part. The only offense really that stands against him at the moment is the fact that he done the interview at this point, and that's all that's hanging against him at the moment. And I suppose taking that into account, regardless of what happens for him personally at the moment, as a fan base, listening to the problems that we know exist and probably want to deny exist in our own heart of hearts, do you think we need, as a fan base, start putting the pressure back on the owning family to start addressing some of this?
100%. 100%. I know for a fact, I mean, it hasn't been covered in tonight's show on the interview. But United fans, if you are anti-Glazer, then you need to you need to keep putting the pressure on. I know for a fact I've been sent videos and everything, and they're all over TikTok as well, of Glazer out flags not being allowed in the stadium, not because they're banned, because the Glazers don't want any of that in there. There is TikToks about it. I think there's about a 2.5 minute one on TikTok where some guy's asking one of the stewards why he's not allowed to take his flags in, whilst everybody else says, and he doesn't answer him. And then another steward comes across and says, because the Glazers don't want it in there. Now that is covering up. That is just purely covering up. The Glazers don't like the fact that, it's an anti-Glazer flag. I'm anti-Glazer. I'll happily say I'm anti-Glazer. I want those American out of the club. 100%. Never want to see him again. Solo's saying there, I didn't see anything wrong with the interview. I've just said I didn't really see anything wrong with it. There were one or two comments I didn't quite agree with, but everyone has their opinion. It's a dig at the Glazers, which it is. This is what it is. This is a dig at the Glazers. So for me, I'm kind of on Ronaldo's side here. Solo's Glazer out. I'm pretty sure you're Glazer out, but we need to keep this Glazer out movement going.
I think the sad point about the whole Glazer out movement is that it's necessary, because I know that Solo, you, me, and any Manchester United fan, we'd love to be sitting there of a Saturday or Sunday evening kind of going, do you know what now? That away kit or that third kit, that's a fucking beautiful piece of kit. I want that in my wardrobe. But then you're kind of turning around and you're going, but by buying that, I'm giving money to them. And you're kind of going, you have to deny yourself the pleasure just because doing the purchase would fund them.
Yep, 100%. I mean, I have this season's home and this season's away kit. I've got them, but I haven't bought them from Manchester. I haven't bought them from United. But whilst I was on holiday, I've had to get cheap replicas because I want the shirts. I want to show that I support Manchester United, with all I can. But I'm not giving the Glazers a single penny.
Agreed. Here. And I do think it's time that possibly that there's enough pressure put on that it causes the FA to possibly review the whole thing, because at the end of the day, the way I reconcile this is, if me and you want to buy a flat screen TV column, we have to pay our money, or we have to take out a loan in our names to service the purchase of that flat screen TV. We cannot go to a third party bank, say, right lads, we're taking that flat screen home with us today, and the minute that we get possession of it, we're going to move the money that's owed to you into the flat screen, and the flat screen is going to pay for its own purchase until the bill is paid off. That does not make sense. And that is what this family done, utilising Ed Woodward and his connections with his former employer. And for me, I think that needs to be looked at. They've changed the rules to stop that sort of stuff happening again, but there surely is room somewhere for a review.
There definitely is. I know Solo there is saying he hasn't had a shirt since 2003 because he refuses, and he agrees with me 100%. So before we wrap things up, I just want to get your final thoughts, Rebel.
My final thoughts is that it's unfortunate that it's come to this. Regardless of whether it comes out that Ronnie is 100% vindicated or not, it's going to be always that niggle on the back of your head when you're talking about the legacy of the players. Regardless of whether you intend to make that compensation for it, you're going to kind of go, but he went to the press, he acted for whatever reasons, and you're kind of detracting from, like, if he had actually left in the summer, I don't think you could have said anything more than it was a perfect homecoming. He was the man when the season finished, and we could have been going, what if all year long? What if we'd kept him? Would we have made Champions League? Would this have happened? Would that have happened? And we could have had that beautiful memory. So my final thoughts is, I just hope that we as a club can get away from this, what seems perpetual cycle of bringing up our laundry and putting it in front of the world.
Yes, 100%. And just before we do the sign off for the night, I am just going to put this up here quickly just to remind you to get involved in our giveaway. It will be done on the first Football Lounge show. The winner will be announced on the first Football Lounge show after Christmas. Just get involved in live chat or after the show has finished. We do like to see comments. We do get involved, and we will chat with you in the comments as well. But I'm expecting fireworks tomorrow night. So please subscribe, hit the like, and hit your notification bell, because we'll be back tomorrow to look at part 2. So from me and from Rebel is thank you so much, and I hope you have a great night.